all of those social media attacks on candidates should take the back seat. Let what the person did before speaks for him, just as we saw in Osun State. With this paradigm shift that we have seen in Osun State, when every other state copied that prior to the general election, Nigeria will just become an Eldorado of salt going forward. Politicians, governors, presidents, House of Reps, Senate, and House of Assembly members, it is your scorecard that will determine your election, or else a new entrant will boot you out by the position of the electorate. If Nigerians at this present time can transfer millions of naira at the fingertip of their phone and it gets to the recipient, it then means we can even vote electronically with our phones. So we must be thinking in that direction and not these beavers that is always giving us issues.
But are we there yet when we know that there's so much corruption?
INEC has a mandate to deliver a free, fair, and credible election to Nigerians. And INEC has been funded to that extent also. So they do not have any ground to make any excuse whatsoever.
Ademola Adeleke, the Osun State Governor, has won a fresh 4-year term to lead the Southwest State after defeating his closest rival, Bola Oyebamiji of the All Progressive Congress. The returning officer for the Osun State governorship election, Joshua Ogunwole, who announced the results at the INEC Collation Center in Ogumosho early on Sunday morning, said Governor Adeleke polled about 511,067 votes to emerge as the winner of the keenly contested exercise. Oyebamiji of the APC came second with a total count of 444,815, while Najim Salam of the African Democratic Congress was a distant third, having gotten about 17,180 votes. Adeleke's victory was particularly significant as he contested the election on the platform of the Accord Party, having left the People's Democratic Party, under which he won his first term in December. Now, the declaration ended months of campaign in the Southwest state with 15 political parties participating in the elections. Now, the period leading to Saturday's exercise was marked by accusation and counter-accusation, with security heightened across the state. Both the ruling party and the APC traded blame, accusing each other of being behind killings and destructions of property. Police authorities, in the wake of the heightened tension, deployed about 15,000 personnel across the state, alongside 30 commissioners of police as part of preparations for a hitch-free election. First Public Relations Officer Enite Inidu also said a police helicopter and also a drone unit were deployed to the state to conduct aerial surveillance. To ensure a hitch-free exercise, President Bola Oyebamiji mandated the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Dusu, and other head of security agents to provide an adequate security at the polling unit in Osun to forestall any disruption of the process. Now, the governor's victory led to an eruption of jubilation across Osun State. Now, his celebrations were pronounced in Osogbo, the state capital, and Adeleke's hometown, where supporters trooped onto the streets singing, dancing, and chanting in celebration of the governor's victory. But as much as the election has come and gone, it's only right that we assess how the election was held, knowing that it's more like a build-up to the general elections come next year. Yes, how did the INEC perform, and how did the electorate conduct themselves, and did the political class also live above board? What of the security forces, were they apolitical during the whole process? Well, a look at this will take center stage on the show today. And that is, we're looking at the Osun State election. We're looking at the postmortem as a build-up to the general election. That's what we're having as a major discourse today on the show. We're looking at the Osun State elections that just got concluded, and with the victory going to the incumbent governor. We're talking about no other person but Ademola Adeleke. And not just only looking at that, but looking, or rather using that to form more of an assessment of what the general election should naturally look like. But anyway, in all natural way, we'll always have a resource person to help us look at this, and we have no other person but I'd rather call him comrade on this angle. Comrade Edewor Egedegbe, you know, he's of the Value Rebellion Center, and also a major observer as it concerns the elections, not only for the 2023, but the build up to these very elections and other subsequent elections. And I really want to welcome you so much, Comrade Edewor Egedegbe. I had to put comrade for many reasons, because we'll be looking at this critically. Good day and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, anyway, like I said, we'll be having a build-up to the general elections, but many will look this at more of a litmus test to see how INEC performed, to see how the electorate conducted themselves, to see how security agencies were looking more apolitical in the whole process. But before we go towards that route, I want to get your general assessments as it concerns what transpired in Osun State. Well, many will say Adeleke came, he saw and he conquered, but we're not looking at that, but we're looking at the conduct of itself. And are you sure that there was no political influence? And we're talking about the central as it concerns this very election.
Okay, once again, thank you for having me. I'd like to start by congratulating Ademola Adeleke of Osun State on that very resounding election victory that he had. For me, it is the beginning of new things to happen in the electioneering of Nigeria as a nation. What we saw in Osun State prior to the election was very troubling, to say the least.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the election came. There was some level of, coherence.
Yeah.
There was some level of the normancy that now played. Not to say that there were no hiccups, but when you just oppose what happened prior to the election and the election day, you will see that a lot of things happen in the positive.
Okay.
So having laid that foundation, I want to say that, yes, the election has come and gone. How did it fare? Preparatory to the election was very toxic from all fronts. First, from the campaigns, where you recorded now from the piece you gave us, 29 deaths.
29 deaths.
Before election. That's troubling.
In about 73 incidents. Violence incidents.
Yeah, so that's troubling to say the least. Then, of course, we saw political heavyweights thronging Osun State as if something else.
A do or die
affair.
Yeah.
Now, the ruling party, APC, number of their governors were on ground, and not just being on ground, they were using foul language that could even instigate more tension. So, but the way and manner Osun people manage that, for me, is plausible, to commend them that, yes, they were resilient in spite of provocation. They knew what they wanted and they came out and they got what they wanted.
Now, talking about coming out to get what they want, do you feel the most popular candidate took it at the end of the day?
Absolutely. That's what happened, which is why some of us are thumbing up for Osun State and, of course, thumbing up to all the agencies that participated the way it turned out, that let's use that as a foundation for 2027. For example, I was glued to my television following up to see, the progression and how it was happening. And there was some level of satisfaction, I could say, a departure from what we've been seeing in even the rest subsequent off-cycle election.
Off-cycle.
Yeah, so there's some positive takeaway from the Osun election, from the way the campaigns went. Then, of course, the campaign were toxic, even though the governor, the current governor who won a re-election, also was not sleeping. He was always shouting on top of the roof, ensuring that he's not taking undue advantage, is not taken against him, particularly the federal might, that where you saw the ruling party that had about 31 governors, almost all of them were coming to campaign 10 days to election, turning the place to a beheave of sort by, people getting into Osun State as it wasn't happening before. Okay. So that brought some tension to the place. then again, the killings, and of course, that very toxic statement credited to that senator saying that you kill occult persons wherever you see them, anybody that is not voting for APC. When all of that happened, it brought a whole lot of tension to the entire system. But that's why I'm giving it to the Osun people for their dexterity, coming out for what they wanted, and to the best of their ability, they got it. So I'm using this, that if this can happen in Osun, it then means it can happen everywhere in Nigeria. Meaning that the citizens of this country, they are beginning to take their destiny in their hand to determine who represent them, who govern them, who lead them part-time. Because the people deserve the leader they get.
Yeah, of course.
So if that is so, our contributory attempt to making it happen becomes very critical. So I give it to Osun people, and I'm saying that every other state in Nigeria should draw from what Osun people have done. That's the way to go. Gone are the days where politicians get elected and they leave governance, they play politics every day, every other day. Those days are already going. You saw that Ademola won a re-election because of his performance, basically.
Okay.
Now, some people were accusing him, for instance, the governor of Edo State was calling him a dancing governor, that you go to meetings, he would dance first. You want to enter plane, he would dance first. All of those mockery. But the people that Ademola represent, they know him better than even Okpebolo was saying. So they say, no, we know this man. He has done us well. He has not done badly. To that, we are giving him a re-election. So I am saying that, look, all of those social media attacks on candidates should take the back seat. Let what the person did before speaks for him, just as we saw in Osun State. Now, Osun State is, of course, a civil servant state, not a very enterprising state, as it were. But the man came and he's been able to do some things that his predecessors were not able to do. For instance, those flyovers, those construction, like he told us clearly in several interviews he granted, that out of the 30 local government, that he ensured that there are projects, laudable projects in the 30 local governments in just 3.5 years. That tells you somebody who knows exactly what he's doing on arrival. So if the people, of course, at least I watched the commissioning of that flyover where the Oni of Ife and a number of their traditional rulers were on ground, when they were thumbing up for him, that, he passed where others failed. And that, for me, that's the credence any politician needs to get re-elected. So let us now use Ademola Adeleke as a springboard for the forthcoming election. So by that, I mean politicians, governors, presidents, House of Reps, Senate, and House of Assembly members. It is your scorecard that will determine your re-election. That's what we're saying. For short, it is your scorecard that will determine your re-election, or else a new entrant will boot you out by the position of the electorate. Let it now be that democracy has come to stay in Nigeria. This is 27 years of unbroken democracy, the highest time we have had it unbroken. So that should give us, that sense of reasoning that we were not like when it were just 4 years in democracy, when we were 8 years, when we were 12 years. So we are 27 years going to 28 years where we will now have another election cycle. So it is performance that will determine re-election of candidates and not thuggery. Now we have a country that the story has been so negative. You have Agberos becoming elected. You have people with criminal records becoming elected by hook or crook. And when they get elected, we have the best of brains who have read in this country as up to the point of senior advocate of Nigeria coming to defend those people. So it brought a mockery of sort to this country. But I believe that with this paradigm shift that we have seen in Osun State, when every other state copied that prior to the general election, Nigeria will just become an Eldorado of salt going forward.
Now, anyway, let's truly go forward because, like it's always been stated that you need to discover to recover. And let's look at, I know you talked elaborately, but I want us to now narrow it down, because what I want us to do is let's look at the foundation being laid in this Osun State election. Then we progress into what will be for the 2027 election.
Right.
So we look at it together. Now, I want us to look at first the electoral umpire. Let's look at how they performed. We got a statement from Yaga Africa just only yesterday, and they gave thumbs up to INEC officials for arriving. About 78% of them arrived at the polling units by 8:30 in the morning. The 300 polling units that were needed for these elections, 78% of INEC officials arrived around 8:30, which is more like a thumbs up. And not only that, we had every information that about 30,000 core members were deployed for these elections, and we had little or less incident as it concerns how they participated. Maybe they did negatively. We only had few stories of that. So let's look at INEC and these elections itself, the electoral umpire. And I want you to help us understand, did they perform incredibly well? Also putting in mind what happened with the IREV, where we heard and got credible information that at the initial early stage of the collation, it was fast. But when it got to the midday, it became slow, and only God knows why, and even it halted. But when it came to the evening, the collation again became very intense. I'm talking of from Saturday, before the announcement was made on Sunday. So let's look at how INEC in itself performed during this whole process.
Okay, yes. For me, in fairness, you give it to INEC that this is a clear departure from what we saw in Ekiti State.
Okay.
Ekiti was the last before this last one.
Yes.
So there's some level of improvement in terms of preparation, in terms of also matching, their words with action as regards their readiness to conduct free, fair, and credible election in Osun State. Okay. So you can give it to them. However, I do not want us to shout on top of the roof that INEC have performed creditably well, and then we now lose sight of the 2027 general election that is coming. Don't forget, Osun State is a state of just less than 4 million persons. And of course, the voter strength there was about 2.something million.
2.1 million.
Now relate that to a Nigerian of 200 and something million persons with a voting strength of about 90 million or thereabout. So when we give it too much to them, I do not want them to begin to, overrate themselves.
Yeah, be lightheaded.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm saying that, yes, how are they going to now scale this up in 2027? That should be the attention as it is now. Now, speaking to the issue of, the deployment. Deployment was top-notch. Yes. From that report, which I also followed, when Chenwo Kibaloye and Yaga Todo were giving the back-to-back assessments, the analysis, it was very clear that as early as 8:30, more than 70% of the polling units were already manned by INEC officials. So that's a plus. But again, how are you going to now ensure that we have a repeat or even a better stand as it comes to general election? Those are the interrogations that we need to get engaged. Then, of course, the performance of beavers. I also listened to one of the analysis that talked about some of those beavers that were not able to capture some persons. And I listened to one of those men that said he got registered in 2011, that his face was not able to be, recognized. And so he didn't vote. And he mentioned about 17 persons in that regard. So I'm saying that whatever those posers, INEC should begin to start work on those beavers. Now, there are some of those applications that need to come to be installed in those beavers so that they perform top-notch. I'm even one of those persons who is saying that, look, if Nigerians at this present time can transfer millions of naira at the fingertip of their phone and it gets to the recipient, it then means we can even vote electronically with our phones. So we must be thinking in that direction and not these beavers that is always giving us issues.
But are we there yet? When we know that there's so much corruption, we see scams on being used during these processes of having person's money being taken away. We see network issues. You can be somewhere and you're calling somebody else and you'll be hearing a different voice at the other background when it comes to the issue of connectivity. So would that really make sense now? Are we ripe enough for that at itself?
So when we say are we ripe enough, when are we going to be ripe? If for 27 years of unbroken democracy, we are not able to, a 27 years old man or woman is fully grown as it is today. Some married with children. So how do you tell me that a journey that has spanned 27 years, we are still behaving as if we are just starting? So for me, I don't go in that school of thought. I'm saying that whatever is worth doing should be done well. That's the only way we can get it. And we are saying if Osun can get this nice, to say the least, it then means we can export this to the general nation, which is why I'm situating my own conversation on INEC. INEC has a mandate to deliver a free, fair, and credible election to Nigerians. And INEC has been funded to that extent also. So they do not have any ground to make any excuse whatsoever. My major attention is more on INEC and security. Then thirdly, then the citizens of this country. Now, having spoken about INEC, so the security.
Yeah, because I was going there, and the question I want to ask here, as it concerns the security, if you take your mind back to the 29th of July, the serving commissioner was removed on account of it. And when I say a serving commissioner was removed, commissioner of police, we're talking about Ibrahim Ngotan. He was removed from that post because there were major allegations against him. Now, let's look at that, because we're looking at how well security agencies performed. And we also do know on record that about 40,000 security personnel were deployed for these elections, 15,000 regular undercover cops. We had close to a whole batch of NSCDC members were there. We had one Deputy Inspector General of Police attached there with 30 commissioners of police. So did it not make it more like a war zone, deployment of so much security personnel, making it look as if, can elections be free when you have so much deployment of military around you persons? So let's look at those angles. Build up to the elections and during the elections, did the police underperform before the elections, having a commissioner being removed? And was it necessary to have so much persons and militarize the area? Did that even lead to voters' apathy as it concerns this election?
Okay, so for me, the security performed reasonably well, in my view.
During or
before, during, and even the post.
Okay.
Now, I will break it down. Before, you talked about removal of the commissioner of police.
Yes,
That's the preserve of the Inspector General of Police, and of course, the Police Service Commission. It is their prerogative to remove and post at any time, depending on the information at their disposal. I may not want to delve into the nitty-gritty of that, but to say that whatever it is, internal security is the preserve, is in the beck and call of the police.
Okay.
And as it concerns election, the Commissioner of Police is in charge of what goes around before, during, and even after election. So to that extent, they did what they did. Now, you talked about the number of commissioners of police and even the DIG coming to. So that was occasioned by the tension that, permeates the election itself. So it is better to prevent than to manage the aftermath.
Okay.
I believe that's the reasoning for that number of personnel that were brought.
Okay.
Did it deter the people or otherwise?
Okay.
I did not see that deterring the people.
Okay.
That should have reassured the people more. And I also think that's why many people were able to come out. And of course, at every point in time, they were very, very loud on top of their voice, chanting that nothing would happen to their votes. And that was made to happen. We didn't record any death on election day.
Yeah.
So that tells you that their presence also forestalled any breakdown of law and order. And of course, what I found out that the police didn't quite do well was the invitation and the almost immediate release of the senator who made those inciting statements that you can kill any accord person and all of that. And when he was even interviewed to to retract such statement, and he didn't retract it, meaning that he said it, but he was saying that he meant a different thing. But kill any APC person, there's no translation you give to it. Even those Yoruba people said that killing is killing. And when you say kill anybody that is not a member of your party, you are saying they should kill. And that's, for me, that's treasonable in any case. You know, so to that extent, how that is handled, it leaves much to be desired. You don't handle somebody because he's a senator. You handle the person with kid gloves. Then when he become a poor Nigerian, then you want to use a sledgehammer to kill an ant. So to that extent, I didn't give them a pass mark in that. Okay. But I also want to know how that investigation has turned out. Okay. Or is that man charged for those statements he made? Those inciting statements in accordance with the law? Because it is very clear, you know, the prohibition of setting, you know, statements at campaign and rallies. Yeah. It is in the Electoral Act. Yeah. From Section 95 to Section 100, deals with what happens around campaign, around rallies, and all of it. So the man has run foul of those sections of the Electoral Act. So it should be dealt with in accordance to the law. Now, let's now look at how the presence of security has helped a peaceful conduct of the election. Okay. It has helped. Okay. But the challenge there is that if you send over 40,000 of security personnel to a state election,
what would be?
How many thousands of security personnel do we have? I understand the figure of the Nigerian police has always been 350,000. Then, of course, all of them put together, they are not even up to 1 million in any case. So if you send only 40,000 to one state alone, where do you get all of those 40,000 to the 36 states plus FCT in a general election? So that tells you that they must go back and put up a clear-cut architecture to manage the security of the 2027 general election. So that's why I said it's not enough to now be shouting on top of the roof, leaving those really key segments that should be given attention to. So it is up to INEC to do due diligence, do, you know, a debriefing of what has happened, a retrospect, then look ahead, get those deployment where necessary, and, you know, forestall any dying minute approach. So everything. So from today, we have basically 150 days to elections. So campaign would have started today now. Yes. By virtue of the Electoral Act that stipulates 150 days clear to the election. So the first ballot is on the 16th of January. So from now till that 5 months time, let everything be put in place by INEC so that we can have a hit-free election. With what happened in Osun State, if that is exported to all of the states, it then means Nigeria will have the best election ever if all of these are considered and put in place well ahead of general election 2027.
Well, anyway, before we go to what will look like or what you feel we need to do as it concerns the 2027 general elections, you've just given, we're just still taking more like postmortem of what played out in the Osun election. We've talked about two critical sectors, and we've talked about the electoral umpire, INEC itself.
Yes, and the
security. But let's come to the electorate itself.
Good.
Serap came out just yesterday to demand a probe by INEC and the EFCC on the issue of vote buying. We have viral videos where people claim to have been paid 50,000, the highest ever, as it concerns buying votes. And we've had series of persons coming out to even distribute things and make people swear that they would definitely vote a political party come that day. So even this started way even before the elections and ran into the elections. We had credible information that 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, up to 50,000 naira was used for vote buying. We're talking of an electorate that you said should or really did put what this man performed on as a means of them voting him for a second term. But my question is the electorate mature, wise, and ready looking at what transpired during the Osun State elections?
Very good question. I spoke on this in a sister station earlier, that kudos to the people and the citizens of Osun State for what they did. Now, among the things they did, They didn't just even, some of them didn't just collect 50,000, 20,000 as it is alleged and go to sleep. They collected the money and still voted against the people that gave them the money. That's why I'm giving them kudos. You know, this has been my campaign.
So they can collect.
Of course, if anybody brings to them, let them collect, because after all, it's their patrimony. Now, those politicians that give money to buy vote, how much of such money were they giving before they got into elected office? So it is the patrimony of the people they are bringing. So they can collect it, then still vote their conscience. So that's what we now tell them, that look, this game is no longer, you know, profiting to us. Maybe can we now use this money to develop the people? Because it is the money of Osun people that Ademola used to develop infrastructure, pay their salaries that other predecessors were not paying, that made the people convinced that this man has served us.
Oyetala left about 75 billion naira in salaries and debt.
In deficit. So he cleared them and he's still paying them. He wasn't paying half salary, he's paying full salary. So he's using the people money for them, to serve them. So this should be the standpoint for all the electorate. You know, I've always maintained that our problem is more of the electorate than even the politicians. If a politician brings money and you dish him with his money, next time he will approach you again.
Yes.
But they say, no, they are weaponized poverty. And I tell people, you see, poverty is a state of the mind. It's a state of the mind. When somebody says you are poor, if you believe that you are not poor, you are not poor. The person should not determine whether you are poor. So they gave you 5,000, 10,000 before. Now it has graduated to 50,000. So 50,000 is your worth for 4 years. Is that what you are saying? That's even the worst anomaly that you happen to anybody. So we are saying that this time around, the money that they refused to use to develop us while they were in office, now they are coming for a second tenure. Or for those who are coming for third tenure for House of Assembly, National Assembly, let's dish them this time so that by 2031, it would have become a norm that no going back to non-performing persons any longer. That's the way we can sanitize this country. So there is so much work to be done by citizens of Nigeria by rejecting every Greek money that come and vote your conscience. Now, let me also add this. This time around, we are not going to vote political party. Nigerians should not vote political party, whether ruling party or an underdog party. Let's vote the character
of the persons
that those parties are bringing in. We saw what happened in the primary election in APC, ADC, NDC, and all of those parties. So any party that did not use democratic tenets to get their candidate, they should be booted out. We must give democracy the bite that it deserves. Democracy is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So any democracy that does not run in the spirit of the letter of democracy should be shown the way out. That is where we can redeem our country. The days are evil. We must redeem our country by our dexterity. Dexterity meaning that we say, look, like the word we say, we die here, but we live here. That's my own state. We live here and make sure those who did not wish us well give us a chance and get people who have us at heart to get enthroned to represent us come 2027 to 2031. That is where Nigerians and those few politicians that are less than 5% controlling the 95% of Nigeria, we know that the game is up. Now, we must serve our people, and we must serve them to the best of our ability and the provision that God has given us so we can serve our people better.
Okay, well, anyway, it's definitely what we're having as a major discourse today on the show. Well, in case you're joining us, yes, we're looking at the Osun election and more like a postmortem of what really transpired, and not just a postmortem of what really transpired, but also trying to well, see what will be as it concerns the general election come next year. And like I said, we still have no other person but Comrade Edewor Egedegbe helping out with the discussion. Well, many will say it's just barely 150 days to go before the general election, which is scheduled for January 16, would kick or start to be. And if you also do know that campaign have started, it only started day before yesterday, or precisely yesterday. That's when campaign really kick-started. And many are saying, should we, like he said, put these people on the table and ask the general question of what their performance was like? And not only that, but what are those things they've done to make us vote them? That is all we're having as we also look at what INEC needs to do to ensure that it's more like an equal playing field and a fair play, and not only that, but giving us a credible and free election come next year. Well, all of that is what we're still having as a major discourse in case you're joining us. And we need to go back now. Undermining, we've laid the foundation of what the elections was during Osun State. It's only right we now progress and see what we need to do. Yes, you've given a thumbs up to INEC. You've given them also a backlash. Yes, you've given up a thumbs up to the security agencies. Also, you give them a little backlash because the numbers, like you stated, if they can deploy 40,000 in each state, 30 states and the FCT will be talking about 1.4, 1.5 million personnel, where we know that they don't have up to that very required number if it really want to go the way Osun did. Now, let's now come now to what needs to be done. And in talking about what needs to be done, I want us to start with INEC. INEC deployed about 30,000 core members during these elections. What are those things that INEC, yeah, we are still talking about funds. They are still screaming to the high heavens that is not all the funds that they requested for have fully been given to them. So Amoputon said only recently. Let's keep that at the side, but look at what needs to be done. The last general election, the issue of the beavers, IREV was always at the front burner, especially as it concerns where some were inadequately deployed and some were not even performing at all in itself. But let's look at all of this. How should INEC conduct itself come next year? What are those things they need to put in place now to ensure that we have a free, fair, and credible election come next year?
Okay.
Electoral umpire.
Yes, for INEC, Professor Amoputon has no excuse not to deliver maximally. Okay. He has no single excuse. So if he has any impediment as it is now, he should shout on top of the roof. Okay. So that Nigerian knows that the man did his part. That is the government of the day that is failing him. Because if he does not speak out, we will not know. We will not excuse him, so he should speak out. If funds have not been sent to him that should be sent to him, Mr. President should listen and send him that fund as quickly as possible. Because as it is today, we are 150 days away. So let nothing impede on whatever funding they need to get. The allocation has been, provision has been made, then that money should get to them. Then two, that late judgment that came from the courts that made them to now spend a whoopee billions to print and bring in that last party into the to the ballot box should not repeat itself. Okay. So our judiciary should be circumspect. They shouldn't be giving judgment that will now become impediment to a process that is ongoing already. We should be deliberate about some of these things and not undermine that what will happen. Nothing will happen. No, things can happen. We don't wish that negative things happen. Let positive things happen to us. Now, INEC, the training and retraining of the ad hoc staff should begin in earnest. Okay. They should not wait until die minute, because what we have seen in previous elections, general elections, majority of the ad hoc staff they take to the field, they are not even, conversant with the technology that they deploy. So that should not happen in 2027. It should not happen. Okay. So meaning that their recruitment process should begin in earnest. The current training that we put them on their foot should happen essentially. And let them have enough backup. Now, for the beavers, if they need to get more of those beavers, let them get them. Let there be at least a spare for every unit. Okay. So if a number of units is maybe 10, let's say 10 million, for instance, they should be able to get 20 million beavers. Okay. So each beaver should have a spare.
Okay.
That once that one malfunction, the other one comes into play.
being.
We don't want a case of incident form in this general election. And we don't want a situation whereby that they are not able to send things to the IREP portal. No. Real time is what we want to get. Now, I didn't speak to an issue you raised earlier where, you know, the IREP portal was being feeded and it was very fast at the initial stage in Osun State. Then at the point, it became epileptic. Then at the point, it stopped around from 8:30 p.m. in the night till about middle of the night. And you saw the agitation that happened. So let all of that not happen. Let that be unfettered from the word go. The moment results have started coming in from the unit, it moves straight to the IREP portal and let it be captured by all and sundry. And another thing that, you know, citizens must also not take lose sight of is that we must ensure that when citizens finish voting, stay back at the radius that is, you know, allowed and watch what happens there. Let the result be collated, declared there, and announced. Then, you know, snapshot, screenshotted, and sent to the IREP portal. Let it be done in the glare eye of all the electorate. That day is dedicated to vote new people into office. So one day you sacrifice for a government that governs you in the next 4 years is not too much a sacrifice. Because it is a responsibility of citizens to ensure that they support government to enthrone a better system any day. So that responsibility, citizens must make sure they do it. So for INEC, I do not see them coming up with any excuse whatsoever. So let them start early. It's still early in the day. 150 days is early. Let them do those things that they need to do constitutionally. And by the acts that establish them, let them not leave anything unturned. So that we can have an election that will put Nigeria in the radius of, you know, democratic nations that are growing year after year, election cycle after election cycle, and not those negative narrative that we have had over the years.
Well, talking about those negative narrative, we've looked at the issue of time. We've looked at what the Nigerian police force needs to do. You gave us a breakdown of what they need to do. But I want us to look at another major class that we seem to be leaving or pushing aside. And I want us to look at the political class. Yes, Adeleke came out to say, well, I've done well. He told Nigerians or told Osun people why they need to vote for him. He said he has paid a debt of almost 75 billion. I could still remember in 2023, he came out with a budget of almost 100 billion for infrastructural development and the plan to rehabilitate about 345 primary health facilities, constructed 31 schools. A lot of that was what he brought forward to tell the public, I did this. Now, elections, or rather, campaigns have started. How should the political class, how should the political parties, how should the political gladiators conduct themselves during this process of the elections?
Thank you.
Let us understand that as we build up to the general election. Because like you said initially, if you look at section 121 of the Electoral Act 2026, it puts a fine for unnecessary and unguided utterances coming from the political class and political parties. So for me, what or how should the political class and political parties conduct themselves using the 2026 Electoral Act as a guideline? Okay, thank you.
This is very crucial for me, and I'm happy you brought this question at this material time.
Yes.
So the Electoral Act 2026 as amended, sections 95, subsection 1, and I'm going to just give out what the act says clearly, then speak to it. Now, sections 95, subsection 1, it says, the Commissioner of Police in each state of the Federation and the FCT, Abuja, shall provide adequate security for proper and peaceful conduct of political rallies and procession in their respective jurisdiction. And for this purpose, the police may be supported by the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps and any other security agency of the federal government.
Okay.
This is the standard.
Okay.
So any campaign, any procession that is done by any political party that does not have the presence of the security agencies, that will be a dent on the security agencies.
Okay.
I'm very particular about it.
Irrespective of
the political party
in power.
Because what we have seen is that political parties in power get the patronage of the security agencies, but small or maybe other political parties do not usually get their patronage. Now, subsection 2, for the purpose of subsection 1, a person shall be deemed to be acting under a lawful duty if he is acting in his capacity as a police officer or as a member of security agency authorized to carry arms and is specifically posted to be present at the political rally or procession. Why I'm emphasizing this is that we are entering into the campaign time.
Yes.
So let us know those who should be there and those who should not be there. Those who are there on lawful duty and those who are there on unlawful duty. Now, let us also now follow. Notwithstanding any provision in the Police Act, the Public Order Act, and any regulation made under them or any other law to the contrary, the role of Nigerian Police Force and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps and any other security agency of the federal government in political rally, procession, and meeting shall be limited to the provision of adequate security as provided in subsection 1. So we must be clear. Then finally on that route, in talking about sections 95, subsection 4, a registered political party in Nigeria, its aspirants or candidate shall not be prevented from holding rallies, procession, or meeting at any consultative at any time for their constitutional political purposes. And the police shall in consultative manner resolve any conflict of time and venue and amongst parties where such arises. Meaning that political parties should be free to conduct their activities. And they should not be deterred. Because what we have seen in Nigeria, ruling party will deprive other parties of access to public places to hold their public, campaigns and rallies. This should not happen. I'm reading from the Electoral Act 2026 as amended. Now, another aspect that we need to now emphasize is prohibition of certain conducts at political campaigns. And what are these conduct? A political campaign or slogan should not be tainted with abusive language. This is so important. Abusive language, calling names. No. Come to that campaign ground or rally. Tell the people, the electorate, what you want to do. Or what you have done before. In case of those who are in office now. What you have done, showcase what you have done. Just like Ademola Adeleke did in Osun State. And the people, they saw that this thing this man said is true. Because if you do a road to my place, for instance, I'm from the Edewor, where you have like 10 communities, there's no access road to those communities. Now, I will be voting and voting and voting. So our people are asking that, look, do our roads, let's have access
to them,
to life, to, those things that happen in the town. Any government that does that for us does not even need to come and campaign. It doesn't need to come and campaign because he has done his job. We will vote him as many times he wants to go to office because he has done our need. That is what we are saying. So campaign based on what you have done and what you are able to do next. And stop dragging people's name. Stop abusing people. When we do that, we will have a seamless election come 2027. So by this, we are saying that campaigns should be purpose-driven. It should be people-centered. That is what you have for the people, and not to come and abuse people. Who were you before? Who were you now? No, that's not what we're saying. Come and market yourself. that I am the right person, I have the capacity, I have the competence, I have the integrity, and I will leave a legacy beyond me. These are the things that the people want to see. Anything outside that is unacceptable, and Nigeria will resist it like Osun people. Osun people resisted every act of thuggery, every act of vote buying, and they jettisoned it, and they still voted their candidates with a very wide margin of over 60-something thousand votes above the second person in the election.
Well, anyway, I really need to thank you for that. But I feel time is never a friend. And we need to go. Maybe we need to have a second part of this because we've started the campaigns itself, and it's only right and adequate that we educate the electorate and the political class on what needs to be done, especially as it concerns the general election. But anyway, what really concerning us now, really concerns us now, is for us to say a big thank you to you. And I'm talking of no other person, but comrade Edewor Egedegbe is of the Value Rebate Center and also the state coordinator of the Transition Monitoring Group.
Yes.
Here in Delta State. You do know that group is saddled with the responsibility of not only educating the electorate, but also giving those needed information to the electoral umpire on what they need to do and do well as it concerns conducting of the elections in the country itself. But all the same, we thank you for your time, we thank you for your patience, and we thank you for also adding your voice to this very important and civic. It's more like you doing your also civic responsibility of educating the electorate and saying what needs to be done. Thank you so much, Comrade Edewor Egedegbe, for your time with us.
It's always my pleasure.
Well, anyway, the pleasure will be all ours because definitely we've come to the end of this. But I will always emphasize that please let the discussion not end here. Like we said, it will be a two-point discussion. And not only a two-point discussion, just as the elections have started, we'll be having a total update of what needs to be done as it concerns educating the electorate, educating the electoral umpire, telling the security agencies what they need to do, and most importantly, educating the political class on how elections should, or rather campaigns should be run right here in the country. But I always implore you to send your different comment, reactions, and contributions to our different social media platforms. Funny enough, they're already there on your screen. And I will really want to say nice work to the editor. Well, definitely that's what we love to hear and see all coming at the same time. But by the way, it's still a Viewpoint and it's still Atlantic TV. We'll go on a break now, but you do know lots are coming, trending, and indeed the news, all making a full package right here on Atlantic TV.